She's April.
And she's Molly.
And we are
the Book Besties. There's a small monster in my brain that controls my doubt.
There are monsters in the sea.
Why is Santa fucking bullying Rudolph?
But I do want to go to that Halloween party. That sounded like a blast.
But it's very Hannah Montana.
I'm not going to fight with that word right now.
Shut your rolling eyes face.
Is your eyeshadow green?
It's green glitter.
You usually do pinks. That's cute. I like it.
Well, I was in a Christmas parade this morning with my kids for Cub Scouts, so I was trying to be festive. It doesn't match our uniforms at all. But it's Christmas.
It was pretty. It's pretty. So, speaking of Christmas,
my legs hurt from the parade.
I bet. I don't do the outs or the people or the things.
There was a lot of extroverting, and like now I'm really tired, and we're filming the pod, and I'm like, I'm extroverted out, but it's fine. It's fine. I
don't like extroverting. We did last night. We went to a friend's daughter's play, middle school musical, Moana Junior. The kids were very talented. I was impressed with the level of talent.
Yeah.
And then I learned they all go to the same studio my girls go to. A lot of those kids go to the same and theater studio that my girls like to go to. And then I'm like, oh, that math adds up. That's why there's a lot of talent there, because they've been training since they were, in diapers.
Yeah.
So,
well, this episode is going to be live. If you're listening to this episode right now, tomorrow is my birthday.
But you sent me a gift.
But I did. I sent you a gift. This is a Christmas present for Molly, which she saved to open so we can open it live on the pod.
Matt definitely peeked because he's nosy. And he goes, nothing's broken after he looked at it.
Well, I'm glad about that because it is breakable.
So, let's see. Oh, well, it's a coffee mug. That's definitely breakable. Mm-hmm. Oh, April! It's beautiful! Thank you! Yeah, and it's going to hold 2 cups of coffee. That's a big motherfucker. I love that.
Yeah, I got you the jumbo size. You have to describe it, Molly. This is a podcast.
You can't see the pictures. So, on the back, it says, "I fucking miss you, bitch," which is accurate.
Yeah.
And then on the other side is a picture of Virginia and a picture of Texas, and each of them have a heart and our names on it. And it's in our colors. The little turquoise and the dark greens, like...
It's almost like I got to personalize it that way.
Right?
Etsy for the win. I love Etsy.
For the W. It's beautiful.
Small businesses and crafters use Etsy. Not sponsored.
Again, hashtag not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored.
What was I going to talk about?
I feel like the day that we actually become a sponsored pod, literally all we're going to do is be like, and by the way, sponsored by.
Did you guys remember we're sponsored by?
Did you remember?
Remember?
Just a reminder, we're sponsored by.
So this week, I did something I haven't done in a while.
Okay, what'd you do?
I have a new notebook and a folder out.
You're writing again! Yay!
I did send you my premise, which...
Yeah.
I had a dream, and that's where that came from. That has been obviously edited down.
Stephanie Myers created a fandom from a dream, so...
This is gonna be cool, I think. If I can just, science the hell out of this shit.
Yeah. Molly sent a text message with the beginnings of the story to Nurse Katie and I in our epic group chat, and
we really need to call it that.
Yes, Nurse Katie and I were like, yes, let's read more. Where's the rest?
And I spent the day developing characters and not writing a damn.
That's still writing. That's an important part of writing.
I agree.
So we are moving on from Harry Potter.
Finally!
We did 4 hours, 2 episodes, 4 hours of Harry Potter. And I'm now done with Harry Potter. Forever. And
until Sammy gets into it.
And now We are reading Eliza and Her Monsters by Francessca Zappia. And this is today's book. I suggested this book because I read it last year and I really loved it. And I suggested it for the pod because it's not one that a lot of people know. I think it has a good fandom.
I'm surprised it's not.
Yeah. I think that she's more, she is obviously a published author, but she's more of an independent author. And so those don't, necessarily have the same traction.
Right.
Rainbow Rowell writes Fangirl, which is about, a fandom as well. However, Rainbow Rowell already had 2 books under her belt, you know. I really enjoyed this book, and so I wanted Molly to read it because I love it. And if you are a follower of the pod who reads along with us, which we do have quite a few people that are doing that,
kudos for keeping up with us, BT Dub.
I don't think they're actually keeping up with us as much as it's they're behind a few episodes so that they can catch up. But this is one that if you're thinking, oh, I'll just skip that one, don't skip it. Don't skip on Eliza. She's great.
I was hesitant at first because you're hit with cliches right away. But the further I got in, the more I fell in love.
Shut your mouth.
I can call out cliches.
No.
You don't have to agree with the cliches, but there was cliches.
I can see that there were some cliches, but
we'll talk about it.
Right. So can I give a little synopsis?
Please. Thank you.
Right. So Eliza Merck is a senior in high school, and she created Monstrous C. And Monstrous C is an online comic that has been going on for a few years and started small until somebody found it on Reddit and shared it on Reddit. And it kind of sparked this huge fandom and huge following. The thing about Eliza is that nobody actually knows that she's the creator of Monstrous
C. And a high school student.
And a woman. Nobody knows her identity. She uses the pen name Lady Constellation, which is a nod to one of the characters. Basically, her creation has a huge fandom.
Massive.
And somehow she's been able to keep the secret. In addition to that, there's a new boy at her school named Wallace, and it turns out, shut your rolling eyes face. I was
going to let you get through it.
It turns out Wallace is not only a fan of Monstrous C, he is the number 1 fan. And I don't just use that as I'm the number 1 fan. Wallace is the lead moderator, and he's one of
the angels, right?
Yeah, he's one of the lead what the hell am I talking about? Fanfic writers. And I knew it wasn't fan art. I couldn't think of what the word was. So he's the leading fanfic writer. And Wallace is new to the school. Eliza has actually never met a fan in person. And of course, they're going to fall in love because duh. And the big fear is that what will happen when Wallace finds out the truth. And there's some other weird things about Wallace, he doesn't talk. So much of their conversation is written.
It feels like selective mutism.
It is selective mutism. And we'll talk more about why he's selectively mute. But both Wallace and Eliza have pretty severe debilitating anxiety and depression. And somehow they find each other, and it's cute. And I like this. I like the cutesy love stories. It's my jam, and I don't know what that says about me, but it's what I like. So if you read the physical book, there are illustrations in it. I'm going to show if you're watching on YouTube.
Beautiful illustrations.
Here's one of them, and they are excerpts of the comic, and they're accompanied by text. This one isn't.
Which, if you listen to the audiobook, it switches narrators. So
I believe that the intention is that the text is actually supposed to be what Wallace is writing when he is writing the story down. And the reason I think that is because if you notice at the beginning of the book, the fan art, or I'm sorry, the art doesn't have text with it. Oh, well, I'm going to lie because there's one that does. But I think that it's actually meant to be Wallace telling the story in a novel form because she doesn't write. She
chronological. No, I'm not going to fight with that word right now.
Okay, that's good. So anyway, that's what this is about. And you know, shitteth hitteth the faneth. So,
of course, life.
Right. So that's what the story's about, and I really like it, and I think you should buy it.
Same. We don't always hustle buying books, but it is the artwork's beautiful, the book's beautiful. This is definitely a book I suggest you add to your collection.
I have a question about the artwork. Maybe I didn't actually write this question down, but it is something I want to talk about. Nope, I do. Okay, so we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
All right. So, initial thoughts before we get into the questions.
Few cliches in the very beginning, and it definitely made me on the fence instantly. Mm-hmm. She's the weird kid in school. Nobody talks to her. Yeah. And then like it was very easy to predict that Wallace was one of the fucking angels. Oh, what a shocker. He was Rainmaker. It was just there was a few things as a writer I'm like, damn, that's really predictable.
Right.
Some of the other things in the story that was less predictable. I like the storyline. I like the alt ending more than the original ending.
Me too. I don't have a question about that, but we'll
talk about that at the end.
I'm gonna put that on the question list.
But overall, it's a really good book. If I had to give it a rating, I would do 4 stars, 3.5.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. Closer to 4, but I have kids deserve more than traditional love cliches, right? Mm-hmm. And they're gonna pick it out. I love it. I love the mixed media of this. Mm-hmm. I love the mixed media of this, and I think you're gonna get a different audience when you do mixed media. Yeah. When you do the comic ads.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest issue with this, I rated it a 4.5 also. My biggest issue with this book was that, like, I don't follow this kind of fandom. I mean, as much as I love the Hunger Games and Twilight, like, they are, you know, my jam. Mm-hmm. I'm not immersed in the fandom. Like, I don't follow forums, and I don't, like...
I don't have time for that anymore.
I don't write fanfic, and I don't really care about fan art. And so, like, this particular book... I mean, where Fangirl, you didn't have to be immersed in that culture to understand the story. This one you kind of needed to be. And I'm also
really surprised there's no fandom based off this now. Like, there's no Eliza in them.
I did find some fan art, like, after you sent me one. And I Googled that. But
Monster C is, like, null and void on the interwebs.
Right. And, the other thing is, I don't really care for anime. Like, that's not really my jam, and that's
I'm not either.
That's the style that she's.
Big Girls likes it. Big Girls like it, but
I'm sure that James will someday too. He loves Pokemon, so. But that's not really my thing. But so that was my issue with the book. But I really loved the story. I like how she and Wallace find each other. They both have mental health issues, and somehow they are able to make it work. But I had a really hard time not picturing her. There's like this comic. If I can figure out what the comic is called, because I can't think of it right now, I'll link it below. But there's a comic. I follow her on Facebook. And she's got like crazy black hair, and she's always in like long sleeve sweater type things. That is Eliza to me. Like, I can't picture the Eliza.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Anxiety girl.
Yes. And that to me is Eliza Merk, like 100%.
Anxiety girl. Yeah. I don't know if that's what she's called, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also do not understand why Eliza ate so many eggs. Like, I have a thing with eggs. They make me feel gross. So I don't get
between the anxiety, her specific food needs, her lack of sleep. One, it sounds like depression, but it sounds like she's on spectrum or she's not neurotypical.
Yeah, she definitely has some sort of neurodivergence. I would agree with that. And unfortunately, and we'll talk more about this later, her family doesn't really
fuck them. Fuck those parents, man.
Yeah. All right, so jump to the questions.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So Eliza creates an entire fandom, but suffers from pretty severe anxiety and depression. She won't allow herself to believe she is worthy to lead this fandom, so she hides her identity. Is it believable that someone with that caliber of celebrity would remain anonymous for so long?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes. Look at freaking Banksy, and we didn't see Sia's face for years, right? Like,
well,
we
used to see her face, and now we don't see her face anymore.
But like the newer generation that didn't know who she was thought of her as a mystery, right? We don't know who the fuck Banksy is. What's the hell? The guy with the marshmallow, right? Nobody knows who the DJ Marshmallow is.
Yeah.
Like,
and then the Daft Punk when they have the,
yeah. I think there's writers that are ghost writers that were really popular in the 40s and 50s that never showed themselves. I think now in our day and age, it's really hard to hide your identity especially in a virtual forum like that, especially when people can hack and trace your IP and all that jazz. But it's possible.
I guess I can see that part. I'm just more surprised that a teenager would want that. Like somebody that is like pouring themselves into their art to suffer for them to help with their depression and anxiety. Like I understand why she's doing that, but like
I honestly think she did not think it would go this far.
Oh,
I think Eliza did this for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And then she met her two besties, and they started helping her along the way, and it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing, and it got out of hand, and she panicked.
Right.
And she didn't want to turn it off because she knew she started carrying the guilt of how much this meant to others.
She needs to finish it for the other people.
Right. But at the same time, she has zero desire to do any of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
it doesn't sound like she's doing anything at school other than like drawing either. Like it doesn't sound like she's doing the things she's actually supposed to be doing.
I got it. She's a reluctant celebrity. Look at Monica Lewinsky in the 90s. Reluctant celebrity. She was forced into celebrity fandom and forced in the light, even though she had zero desire to be in the light.
But Monica Lewinsky that's not comparable to Eliza Burke.
What I'm saying
Eliza Burke isn't like giving BJs to the president.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not the same thing. I'm saying, but being a reluctant celebrity, Monica Lewinsky wanted to be in politics. She had no intentions of becoming a household name.
Mm-hmm.
Eliza has no intentions of being a household name.
Mm-hmm.
But life changed that.
But you do get the glimpses of her when she goes onto the forums as Lady Constellation. You get the glimpses of when she does like interacting with her fans.
She turns it on.
Yeah.
We turn it on when we freaking do this.
Yeah. Miss April. The Miss April persona, that's not me at all. And it's,
I don't do this all the time. I don't look like this all the time.
Right.
Like, it's just,
I'm
not calling us celebrities by any means. I'm just saying.
We're big in Portugal.
And hopefully soon Australia.
Oh, yeah, right. Australia. So speaking of Eliza's friends, so Eliza has two internet friends. We didn't mention this in the synopsis, but do you find this dynamic believable? Because we got Emmy, the 14-year-old genius who's a college student, and then we've got Max, who's like an adult with like a real job, and somehow the three of them are like besties and have never met, and like I don't understand this dynamic.
Okay, so I think I can explain this because I found it believable because I found their bond believable. But think about, remember in the late 90s, early 2000s when everybody was in random chat rooms on MySpace and all that jazz, and everyone would be like ASL and everyone lied about it and you made friends there?
I did not have a computer until I was in college. So I do know what you're talking about, and I did engage with that occasionally, but like I was in college before I had my first computer, and then I was just basically on AIM, AOL
AIM,
Messenger.
yeah.
And I had a MySpace, but I didn't friend people I didn't know. Did MySpace have chat rooms? Was that a
Back
thing
in the
that?
day, long ago. Or there was AOL chat rooms, right?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
but what I'm saying is like, so I'm theorizing here because I did not write this. I'm assuming the three of them got into a chat one day because they were talking about a theory they saw or something.
Right.
And then they just started bonding. And then they slowly started telling and sharing personal information.
Well, Max is the person that like first pushes the fandom because he is the one that posted it on.
Right.
It's not Reddit. They don't use the term Reddit. They call it something else. I can't think of what they call it.
Hashtag like, not sponsored.
But it's basically Reddit. They just don't. I think they probably couldn't say Reddit. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But I do find it like at one point Max's girlfriend breaks up with him
because he's so much on time.
And he's
masterminds.
Thank you, masterminds. Maybe that's a real thing. I don't know. But she breaks up with him because he spends too much time online. And to me, I would be with her. I would be on her side in that because, like, well, it's not just how much time he spends online. Like, okay, it's okay to engage in a fandom. It's okay to play games and things like that. Like, his two best friends are an 18-year-old and 14-year-old girl. I find that problematic. Like, well, and I find that problematic.
I did find that mildly skeezy.
Yeah.
But first, okay, Eliza never wanted to video chat, even though they both did.
Or meet in person, which they both had wanted to do too.
I feel like if Eliza would have opened herself up a little bit more, his girlfriend would have saw that it's like platonic friendship and like that would have eased out. But it was Eliza.
I don't know that I agree with that either.
I find it Eliza's uncomfort like level made it unable for them to make like.
I don't know. I think Max is kind of a creeper.
You think so?
Mm.
You just don't think a 20-year-old man can just.
He's 22. Friends? He's 22, and his two best friends are an 18-year-old and 14-year-old girl.
But he bonded with them before he knew they were 18 and 14.
I don't know. It's sketch to me.
I mean, same thing happens on Xbox all the time. Okay, would you be saying that
he doesn't ever say anything that's inappropriate? Like he's not doing anything inappropriate. I just think it's weird.
But if it was a 22-year-old dude, a 14-year-old boy, and a 18-year-old boy, and they played Xbox games together, and they played World of Warcraft or whatever together, and they were buddies that way, would you find it weird?
If the 18-year-old was still in high school, yes. Including the 14-year-old at all makes it weird. Unless they're brothers.
I can...
Like, at 22, I was teaching high school.
Right.
So, like, essentially what's happening in here is he is friends with people who are my students' age. Like, right. You know what I mean? And that to me...
I don't know. I feel like... You can have friendships as long as everything's above deck. I mean, Eliza's parents knew she was talking to them, and I'm assuming the 14-year-old's parents knew too.
Who knows what her parents do? She was way at
college. I don't know.
At 14, like
she's smart enough to know about stranger danger.
Feels like a bad idea.
I think we're just going to agree to disagree on this. Okay. Well, am I saying it was right? No. Am I saying internet grooming is right? Absolutely not. I think there's creepers out there, but I don't think he had bad intentions.
I can concede the point because in some ways I feel like Max didn't have social skills either.
No, I honestly do not think he had impure intentions at all.
Well, he never said anything inappropriate. He never tried to like do anything inappropriate.
No, and it wasn't like
weird. I just think it's weird.
I mean, we're all weird.
No.
Next question.
All right, moving on. All right, so let's talk about Wallace. When we first meet him, we learn that he doesn't speak. He has selective mutism. They never call it that, but that's what it is.
It's definitely selective mutism.
Yeah, at least not in a crowd. He doesn't speak, but we also learned that he is almost as famous as Eliza herself in the fandom, which you find to be cliche.
It's like a girl argues with a boy in an elevator. They go on the same first floor. And guess what? The boy's her new boss. What is she gonna do?
I thought you were describing the beginning of the wedding date. And I was like, no. Molly, that's for February.
No, I was just literally pulling up a random conversation.
No, so yeah, I agree. It is cliche. He could have been a part of the fandom without being like the dominant
rainmaker.
Yeah, right. He didn't need to be like the dominating part of the fandom,
right?
But I think their relationship is really cute.
Yes.
I like how she is sensitive to the fact that he doesn't want to talk, and he's better.
She's like, cool. I don't want to fucking talk either. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. I think their relationship is super cute. I love when he asks her if he can kiss her.
Yeah,
and he's too nervous to even like ask her, so he like ask her for paper so he can write it down.
That was cute.
It was so cute. Like the innocence of their relationship is, I think, what my favorite part of this book is. Like it's young love, it's first love.
And they're both anxiety driven, right? Like that's how they function. So trying to navigate relationships in an anxiety driven body is exhausting.
Right. And it doesn't seem like, as we continue in the book, it doesn't seem like really either one of them has that support at home to like move past that or to work on their anxiety. Like not move past it. I have an anxiety disorder. I'm never getting over that anxiety disorder, but I can work on it, you know. What are you doing?
My lights went off. It's bothering me. I'm sorry. I'm trying to multitask.
You are so damn distracting.
I'm sorry. I got my fidget cube. I'm going to sit here and be quiet.
I'm going to get you a Pop-It next. So you can
those things bother me. The silicone texture's weird.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Oh my gosh. I just fucking lost my train of thought.
So we're talking about Wallace.
And Wallace isn't just Rainmaker. He's
one of the angels.
Right. Which is like they've named themselves after characters in the book. And then he's not just one of the angels. Like they're all friends. They're all friends.
Local? They're all local and just get together and fucking whatever.
I agree with that one. I'm giving
fucking whatever. Magically, they all live in the same fucking state. Are you kidding me?
Well, they don't all live in the same state. 2 of them do not live there. 2 of them, like,
Semantics.
But it is pretty weird that, like, 3 of the 5 all fucking live together, and 2 of them are related, and 2 of them went to the same school. Like, it is weird. Like, it's kind of unbelievable.
But I just want to go to that Halloween party. That sounded like a blast.
Oh my gosh. It reminded me of like the Big Bang Theory Halloween
party. Yes! That's exactly what I was picturing. All these nerds in little costumes.
Which we started re-binging the series from the beginning again. Fucking love Big Bang Theory. But yeah, so Wallace.
Kaylee Cuoco is one of my favorites. I've loved her since back in the day.
She's okay. I like Mayim Bialik a lot, and I do too. I think the show really got better after Amy joined. But this is off topic, Molly. What the fuck?
In our new podcast, Big Bang Theory and Molly and April,
not sponsored,
unless HBO's Max wants to hit us up.
Also not sponsored. All right, so let's move on. What did you think of their relationship? That's actually my next question, but it's part of it. Like, what did you think of their relationship?
I like how slow they both went, especially as we get to know them. I like how Wallace opened up to her.
Yeah. Yeah, Wallace opened up to her.
Right, but I mean, in her defense, like, if I told you one day that I'm like this famous author and I've been using a pen name, you're going to laugh at me because you've known me for years. You're going to laugh at me and be like, Molly, I have known you for 10 years. You're fucking just telling me this now? Bullshit.
But it's very Hannah Montana.
It is.
Okay, so like Eliza's obviously like she has the best of both worlds.
To that joke.
Fuck you.
It was good, though, perfectly timed.
And she like Hannah Montana doesn't want her friends to know who she really is because she wants them to know Miley. Like she wants them to love her. Eliza doesn't love any parts of herself, so she doesn't know how to get people to love her. But
so she made up a fake world where everybody loves her.
Right. But I think she should have told Wallace.
I mean,
the way he ends up finding out is just inexcusable. Especially after
I'm gonna be on Team Eliza here for a second about this. Wallace made that shit about him. She was spiraling, her world was collapsing, and he fucking made it about himself.
No, I agree with you that. I agree with you on that. But he also deserved to know.
I'm still mad. I'm gonna be mad forever about that. He definitely deserved to know. But in that moment, when she was struggling, and she was in depression, and she was hurting, he turned it around and made it about himself. And that was selfish.
She straight up had an anxiety.
He had nothing.
Ooh, right.
Really. But then it turned around to be about him because he got an offer to write a book.
Yeah, that was really shitty.
It was super shitty of him.
That was really shitty. That was not being a good friend, a good boyfriend, or a good fan. Like, you weren't any of those things. That was really shitty.
You failed on all four surfaces. Like
100%. Right.
But I like how they bounced back. I like how they, they were together in the end. I like all that.
Yeah.
It just
I love how in the end when he's like video chatting with her in his dorm room and his roommate's like, your girlfriend made Monstrous C? And then like invites in the whole hall. And it's okay then. Like, it's okay.
Right,
everyone's cool with it. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It makes me not want to trust him. Because if this is one of her most severe anxiety-ridden times in her life, how is he going to act when other crisis comes up?
To his defense, because I agree with you, but to his defense, he did share with her something that was deeply personal that he had.
Right, and she definitely could have. He
didn't even tell his stepmom. He didn't even tell his stepmom who's been raising him. So while we're on there, sidetrack, this book from the beginning talks about this curve in the small town and how many people die going over this curve. And the newspaper article that Eliza reads on the anniversary of this mentions a boy and his son.
Right.
A man and his son. Jeez.
Right.
And we later find out that actually is Wallace and his dad. And so when he disclosed that to her, I'm not saying that she should have immediately been like, okay, but also I'm Lady Constellation. Right. I don't think that was the time to make that about her.
Around that time frame, she should have been like, look, since we're being honest and sharing our truths, this is my truth. And I don't want to tell a lot of fucking people about it, but I want to tell you because I love and care about you. However, he did just give her like massive news.
And I do understand why she wasn't ready to do that, because knowing the fact that he's friends with all of the angels, what is that? Could have
spread like wildfire. Yeah. Right. And what
I mean, he kind of pressured her into sharing the quote unquote fan art that she had made, which wasn't fan art since she's actually the creator. So I can see both sides of it. I just don't think he should have found out the way he did.
Yeah.
That was not okay. But he definitely 100% should not have made that about him.
Yeah.
100%.
Listen here. All of our listeners, male, female, I don't care. If your partner is going through something, it is not the time to fucking make it about you. It is fucking not about the time to make it about you.
Right.
Period. Bottom line. Put that on a fucking stamp. Mail it.
Yeah. If anyone's watching us on YouTube, my nose ring just popped out. So if you just saw my I promise you, I am not picking my nose. I have a nose ring, and it popped out.
Anyways, moving on.
It needs to be.
Since we're talking about her relationships, can we talk about the dog for a second?
Oh my gosh, I love that dog, Davy.
Okay, you don't see this a lot in books. You don't see, when we talk about dogs in books, they're either like the massive main character or they're kind of part of the story. This dog is like her emotional support blanket. Like
100%.
And I love how there goes my pen. I am all over the place. I'm sorry. I love how this author integrated this love story between her and the dog.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. It was one of my favorite parts of this book.
And I like that she ends up making a character
named off of her dog.
And if you look at the way the drawing is, he sort of looks like how I mean, he does look like a dog.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's really cute. And it's proof that here's the truth. I know emotional support animals are real. I have quite a few friends that actually have emotional support animals. And the thing is that dogs, that's just their nature. Like when I come home from work, if I've had a bad day, Bailey won't leave my side. She's not a therapy dog. She just knows mommy had a bad day and mommy needs some snuggles right now.
Rocco
dogs feel things fiercely.
Right. Rocco, I've had that dog forever. He has been with me
a long time.
A long time, since fucking Maryland, since I was stationed in Baltimore. When I first started getting sick, he noticed before everybody else did. When I have flare-ups, he satellites me. And if Matt's home, he will bark at Matt if I'm moving without like assistance because of how bad the flare-ups are. He will literally bark his face off until Matt acknowledges Rocco. So, I mean, Rocco has zero training. He just senses the inflammation in my body and the pain I'm in. And he's just like, hey, fucker, Dad, pay attention to Mom. She's moving. And if she falls, it's on you, not me, because I am 10 pounds.
Rocco's a little old man right now.
He's old.
I think
Papillons live forever, so.
Yeah, we've talked about him on the pod before.
Yeah.
How do you feel about finding out that Wallace's dad wasn't just somebody that went over the cliff, but he killed himself?
That was devastating. And
I mean, he did it in front of Wallace.
Yeah. And I mean, it explains a lot about Wallace's behavior and what's going on and how he's managing things. Wallace should have definitely been in therapy. He definitely should have told a grown-up. His stepmom should have put him in therapy after the father died anyway, either way, because he was there.
Right.
And
I don't understand why they had to have known that he wasn't talking, because we do learn that he talks at home.
Right.
But they had to have known that he wasn't talking at school, because that was part of the reason why he changed schools.
Right. It's because everybody, like, he went from being the popular kid, one of the popular kids, to just being ignored.
Right.
It just, I don't know. It just, it's hard. It is super hard.
And they never really explained the timeline of like when his dad died versus when V got remarried.
Right. And his dad obviously had severe depression. Severe depression. Like, it's a lot that happens around Christmas between that and her like losing herself and not even knowing it's Christmas, and then like the stepdad yelling at him in chapter 21.
Yeah, telling him he needed to go to college for something that would make him money.
I've had that conversation. When I enrolled in SNHU and I told family members that it was going to be a creative writing degree, I was told by very near family members telling me it was wasting my GI Bill because I can't make a career on being a creative writing major.
Well, even if you were never published, which I'm still holding out hope that you will be. I mean, your writing is good, but even if you were never,
I really appreciate that.
Even if you were never published, having a college degree, having the experience of going to college, it's important. I don't think college is for everybody. And
no,
like for you and Tom,
10 plus years to get there.
Right. And Tom was the same way. Like he enrolled freshman year right after high school. And dropped out after freshman year and joined the Coast Guard. Like, he didn't know what he wanted to do with himself.
I went to one class and I was like, no, fuck this shit. I need to do something else. I'm not ready for this.
And now Tom has a master's degree. And, like, let's be honest. I started college at 18. I was going to be a journalist. I was going to live in New York City. I was going to write for for a really amazing paper or magazine. I was going to be the shit. I was going to be an amazing journalist and everyone was going to read my byline. I lasted half a semester as a journalism major before I was like, you know what? This is not the life that I want to lead.
Boring.
And, like, all journalism jobs are really hard to come by because like early 2000s when everybody was like, all papers were folding and things because online was happening.
Internet,
right?
yeah.
Right. And so like I think about that now. I wouldn't survive as a journalist now. The profession of journalism is very one-sided. You either join a liberal news media or you join a conservative news media.
There's nothing in between.
And what I liked was the freedom to like have a non-biased
the line.
Right. Yeah. I hate that. So, and here I am. I'm a librarian. Librarian was never on my fucking radar. And
see, I wish I could have. I really wish I knew you back then. I would have loved to see this transition because I feel like it fits your personality.
Yeah.
To a T. And I mean that in the best ways.
The only reason I switched my major to language arts education was so I wouldn't lose credits, which was silly to think about when only had finished half a semester, but whatever.
That's wild.
But I switched that because I was like, I could still do journalism and maybe I'll be a journalism teacher. And then I was a journalism teacher. And then in 2008, I told my therapist I was thinking about going back and getting my master's degree. And she was like, well, what are you thinking about getting it in? And I was like, I think I want to be a librarian. And she's like, that's an interesting move for you. Why do you want to do that? I was like, I really love books and I like sharing. Like, I think when people think to go to be a librarian that like, that's all you do is talk about books with people, which is true. I mean, a lot of my job is supposed to be talking about books with people, but being in the public library, it's service, it's public service, which I love. Being in a school library, it's, being a teacher. But really being a librarian is about, advocating for me as a children's librarian. It's about advocating for books where kids can see themselves.
Yes.
And so that's what made the transition. So in 2009, I started my master's program and I met Tom shortly after I started that program. And one of the first things he said to me on our first date was like, you need a master's degree to put books on the shelf. And I was like, that's not what we do.
I mean, it does sound like a lot of work to work at a public library when you can volunteer and do it for free.
Yes, but you can't be a librarian.
No, I know you don't get the title.
When people would come up to me after story time and be like, hey, can I volunteer to lead story time? No.
That's not how any of this works.
I literally have a master's degree in reading to kids. Like, no, you can't do it.
I have zero desires to do that. I love books, but I really hate people.
Yeah. It's 30-minute chunks of me having to be an extrovert, and then it's not that anymore. We're way off the rails.
Right. But what your point is nobody knows who they are at 18.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go down the rabbit hole here for a second about this, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I joined the military at 22.
Mm-hmm.
I floated for a while. I thought the Coast Guard, when I found the Coast Guard, that it was it. I found my place. I found my people.
Mm-hmm.
Then life changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now I advocate military for my friends' children that don't know what they want to do out of high school.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really upsets parents. They think I'm advocating for their kid to go to war. And I'm saying, and I'm going to tell you this, listener, viewer, look me in the eyes here. We're gonna have a minute for you, okay? I need you to close your eyes if you're listening on the pod. Go down this road with me, friends. Okay.
Come on a journey.
There is something about the military experience besides war.
Mm-hmm.
You learn discipline. You learn independence. You learn yourself in a way and in a community of other people that feel lost in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And taking those 4 years, 6 years, however long you decide to be in, you find yourself.
Right.
And that is the most important thing. Listen to me. It is the most important thing. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be for you. But when you're done with those 4 years, you get money to go to school. You get access to healthcare. You get access to a myriad of different things. We bought our house because on a VA loan with zero down. There are things that help you along the way the rest of your life because of that one choice. It may sound scary, and you may just hear one thing, but there is so much more to offer than just war when it comes to military service. And that includes National Guard, like the Texas Guard, whatever your local community Army Guard is, reserves in the Coast Guard, Air Force, Navy. Hell, they're signing Space Force reserves up now.
Yeah.
It is an experience that helps shape kids.
Right.
I'm done now. I'm done with my tirade. Let's go back to the book. So we're reading Eliza and Her Monsters.
In case anyone forgot. I
just think it's important.
We're on the topic of we're on the topic of parents anyway, so let's talk about Eliza's parents because I have a lot of issues with them.
I have a lot. They're awful human trash garbage people.
So her parents are like super fit and they're into sports, and her brothers are into sports and super fit. It seems like they met in high school and were like popular in high school.
BFFs and MFEO and all that jazz. Yeah.
They don't understand Eliza. And I think it's okay to not understand your kid. There are definitely times I don't understand either one of my kids. But you know what I do as their mom?
Listen.
I fucking listen to them.
And talk to them.
And
pretend to pay attention, because sometimes they just fucking ramble and tell a story for 25 minutes. It doesn't matter. Just pretend.
I don't give a shit about Mario or Mario villains or the fact that this was actually interesting. Bowser wasn't supposed to be a turtle. He was supposed to be a hippo. I found that out today.
Did you know Keepers of the Lost City has been going on for a decade or more, and my children will never stop talking about those fucking books?
I don't know what that is, but
it's a book series. They're on 8.5.
I don't care about Mario, but James cares about Mario. So I sit and listen to him talk to me about Mario. I don't care about fucking YouTube videos. There's this, I'm not going to name the YouTuber because I don't want to call people out like that, but Sam has a YouTuber that he follows, and the stuff they do is so stupid. And like, I don't give a shit about it, but he loves it. So those are the things I talk to them about, because it doesn't matter to me. It's about investing in your kids. And her parents are terrible to her.
Okay. Can we dive into the fact that once they learned she was making money, they made her go and get a bank account and go to the accountant. And then they told her she had to manage it on her own and let go of it. And your child is making thousands of dollars a day, and you're fucking not paying attention?
They didn't even know. They knew she was making a very small amount of money. She's making, at the point that we're reading this book, she's making enough money to pay her way through college.
Minimally.
She had like outright cash to pay, whatever it's going to cost.
And her accountant's like investing it for her, and
she's got more money than her parents.
They're not checking the website to see what the progress is or how popular it is. They're not paying attention.
They're not asking her what she's drawing or what characters. They're not asking her any of that stuff. Instead, they just keep trying to put her in sports.
They want to mold her to who they are. And
what
our children are us. As much as my oldest looks just like me, she's not me. Just like me. She's got Matt's feet, but she is my carbon copy.
Yeah.
And
copy paste.
And then I'm my mother's copy paste, and my mother was her mother's copy paste. It's a whole thing. However,
this is my copy paste.
Yeah. However, does that mean my kid and I are the same person? Absolutely fucking.
Your kid is like a science geek.
She is
going to go to space. She's not
a library. She's going to have a library on Mars named after her. April. A library in Mars. The Piper Addison Biggs Library.
Well, James wants to go to Mars with her, so. And every time I mention that Piper wants to go and James wants to go, Tom's like, they're not allowed to have grandkids on Mars. And I was like, Piper is a
lot older.
4 years older than him, right? Is she 12? Is that right?
She's almost 13.
Yeah. and James is 8. Like, he'll be 9 in March. Like, I'm like, that's a big difference.
She can mentor him. She'll be out of the flight program by the time he gets into the flight program.
Well, anyway, I really have a big issue with her parents. Like, I just don't think, and what I find to be really interesting, because if you haven't read the book, here's the big spoiler for you. Her parents end up trying to embrace her art by revealing,
after forcing her on this stupid camping trip and like
yeah,
all this other shit happens.
They basically reveal her identity in the local paper, because in the graduation announcement they say they're really proud of her and the creation of Monstrous Sea. They have no concept of how big it is. Like, literally, her homeroom teacher has a tattoo of Monstrous Sea on her arm.
I literally paused the audiobook and go, they did not just do that. They did not just do that.
And she also texted me.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear.
I definitely yelled a lot.
And of course that's how Wallace finds out, which is horrible that that's how he finds out. But I just think to myself, you didn't try. Her parents didn't try.
No.
All they literally had to do was Google Monstrous Sea. That's literally all they had to do.
Well, and then she's like literally imploding, right? Mm-hmm. She has the fainting spell. Mm-hmm. She goes to the hospital. The parents let her stay home. And her mom and dad are like baffled on why this is all going on. And her brothers lose their shit. Yeah. And they go into her room and they're like, you tell them or we're going to. And she's like, I really
loved her brothers in that moment. I loved how they were like mad at her parents. Like, why didn't you try to figure out what?
Like, and he literally goes to the computer and turns it on and he goes, if you were paying attention for a single second, you would have known what was going on.
Right.
And like,
right.
And I just loved them. And like, we learn, like, they also have their own private interests and they're just trying to get along. Like, you know, they're just, they're not swimming upstream like she is.
We learn more about them as the book goes on when Eliza starts including them more in her life. But like, one of them's into musical theater. And like, that's not something that her parents are into, but like, they're finding their own people. And like, to me, that's really being a self-absorbed parent, that you're not invested. Like, I'm not blaming parents that have kids that do things that like, they didn't know that they were doing that, you know, but like, be invested in your kids enough to know what their interests are. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's not hard for me because Jane's interest right now is Mario. Like, he's gravitated to that. And like, he's all autism brain all over top of it. Like, we know facts upon facts upon facts. But with Sam, he's still finding his way and some of, whatever. I mean,
he's little.
Right. But like, how do you not know? How do you not know? How do you not, that your daughter has created Monstrous Sea. You know that she was making a little bit of money on it. How do you not, like, maybe once a week Google that shit? Like, how do you not just like check in? Like, hey.
Okay. It goes back to what I always say. If you don't say, fuck them kids, they annoy the shit out of you. You're not spending enough time with those children.
Right.
If you go, oh, I love my kids, they don't ever annoy me, you don't spend enough time with them. Mm-mm. Your kids have to annoy you. That is how you know you love them.
Yeah.
Girls, I love you dearly. Now turn the podcast off because mommy cusses a lot. Like they don't fucking know that.
They fucking know that you cuss a lot. I actually told Tom yesterday, we were watching the old 1960s Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
With the claymation one? Yeah.
And I was like, this fucking doesn't make any sense. Why is Santa fucking bullying Rudolph? And Sam's sitting next to me. James wasn't there because he was doing something else. But I'm like, why the fuck is Santa bullying a reindeer? And I was like, I really cuss too much. I should really rein this in. He goes, it's Molly's fault. And I was like, probably. It's probably Molly's fault.
I mean, it's not surprising. Pam had a rule. You blame the person that's not there. I'm not there.
But you might not physically be here, but you're always fucking here. Like, I text you more than anybody else ever.
Same, girl. Same.
Like, didn't Matt say the other day, are you texting April? And you're like, yes, until we die or the pod ends.
Until one of us dies or the pod ends. He goes, are you texting with April? And I go, yes, until one of us dies or the pod's over.
It's true. Anytime I'm texting and laughing, he goes, Molly or Molly and Katie? I'm like, it's both. It's both.
It's both. It's always both.
It's always both.
It's always both.
All right, so I want to talk about the artwork for a little bit.
Please.
Like, the style of artwork, anime is not really my thing. So I guess, I have a question because, I guess I just don't understand it enough. Do you feel like the illustrations that are included in here are, good enough that it would have, spawned this fandom?
Okay, so
I don't think they're that great. I feel anybody could do that.
I have a theory.
Uh-huh.
I think the illustrations we're seeing in this book are from the sketch pad. Her idea bubbles. We don't see the stuff that goes online.
Well, what about the one that's
what page?
I don't know. I gotta find it. Because there's one that's looks like like this one. Page 47, where it's several panels. You don't think that that's actually from the published? You think that's a sketchbook? Because that looks pretty finished.
It looks pretty finished, but it looks look at the bottom. And that little sea creature, that's unfinished. That is an unfinished scape. Okay. We are getting it in many different variations.
I mean, I might be able to get on board if this isn't her final product, because I'm honestly,
I think it's not the final product. I think where's the one where the chick with the sword is?
You think this, 384 and 385, this is the final product?
384. Let me get there.
This is the extra stuff that was added in.
Yes, I think that's the finalized stuff.
Those are finalized. Okay.
And then where's the one with the chick
Wallace
with the sword?
Was talking about how close her fan art is to Lady Constellation, and she's not
188. 188 looks like a finalized picture. It's just not colorized, right?
But Wallace is talking about how hers is the closest to any of them that he's ever seen, to actually being. And I'm I don't understand why people couldn't just draw that.
139. That's a sketching. 139 is a sketching, and it's the one with the dog, Davy, right? It's half finished. That looks like somebody sketched that into my page,
I love that picture. That's one of my favorite from the books. Here,
let me hold it up for the.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite from the books.
But it is
okay. I can get on board with that because I just didn't think the artwork was that great.
I think we're getting different phases of it.
That's me who can't draw. I can draw to save my life. We're lucky I can draw a box. I can draw a box and a ladybug.
I can't. I can do a bunny, you looking in the back of the bunny's booty, sitting in grass. You were never taught that? The 3 humps?
No, but I will tell you that I had to draw a hippo for something. And
hippos.
I do. That's why I had to draw a favorite animal. And I watched a YouTube video. How to draw a hippo.
I would have literally pulled it up on my screen and just started sketching.
I can't draw to save my life. Okay. Did you have a favorite line from the book? I have a favorite line.
I think I like the one that is the main quote from the show. From
there are monsters in the sea.
There are monsters in the sea because it's very metaphorical. Mm-hmm. There are monsters in the sea. Right?
And my favorite quote relates to that, in my opinion. This is page 88.
Okay.
There is a small monster in my brain that controls my doubt.
Yes.
And if that line isn't fucking April, I don't know what is.
Yes.
There's a small monster in my brain that controls my doubt.
Yeah. I mean, it's accurate.
It's accurate. All right, so alt ending versus ending. So the ending kind of just, it's a happy, he's at college.
Oh, look, he's in college and she's
taking
home.
A year off.
And sabbatical and taking care of herself. And it's just, it feels like a throwaway ending. I like the alt ending better.
Yeah, me too. And the alt ending, they go to a Comic-Con.
I love it. And she still can't believe she's one of the important people.
Right. And because Wallace as Rainmaker is publishing novelization of Monstrous,
right?
They go together, and they're both which is a little cliche, but I liked it anyway.
I also loved in the end the group chat between E, Max, and when they first meet Wallace, and like E's like, oh my god, and that is me as a best friend. I am going to be peppering your new boyfriend with questions.
And Max's job is to be the one that's like, you break her, I will kill you. So, yeah, I like the alternate ending better as well.
I liked the ending, the original ending in the audiobook, and then you told me to go read the alt ending, and I was like, fuck that ending. Give me the alt ending.
Agreed. I didn't realize that the audiobook didn't have the alt ending, so I'm really glad I'm glad I told you to get a hard copy because you needed to see the artwork anyway.
Yeah.
Well, any final thoughts? I'm not sure if I missed anything. Any final thoughts?
In the prologue, I love Eliza's rant about her name. Like, this whole tirade about her name, and Eliza Merk is a creepy girl who clings to her ex-boyfriend for weeks after he dumps her. Like, Eliza Merk, I feel like her parents thought she was going to be this spectacular athlete like them. And Eliza Merk was a name that you were going to hear on the Olympics. And they were definitely planning for a different kid. Right?
I mean, she's famous. It's just not the kind of famous they planned for.
Right. So, and I think that's like her beef with it, right? She feels like her parents named her a name that was expected for something other than what she was.
Yeah.
So, I like it. I'm sad. I wish this fandom was real.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about this. We're at an hour, so I don't think we need to dive too much in it. But I did want to say, within the book, Eliza is a fan of this
teen show.
No, well, not
the book series.
The book series, Children of, is it Hypnos? Is that what it is?
Something like that, yeah.
And if you
Children of Hypno, maybe.
I think it's Hypnos, but Francessca Zappia did write the Children of Hypnos. Like, there is I think there's like a Kickstarter for it or something. If you go on Goodreads, she posts about it. You can buy like a PDF copy of it. So the book exists. But it sort of reminded me of The Magicians. Like, there's a book series.
Children of Hypnos. Yes.
Hypnos. But like the Magician series, like there's a book series that doesn't really exist that's sort of like Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe series. It's sort of like that. There's a series that it doesn't really exist in the real world, and Eliza's a fan of it. So anyway, I did want to give a nod. If you like this book, she did write those books.
That's not the fan art. That's not the book I want her to write. I did like the Monster C. I want Monster C.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I do like how she wrote her, and she was like, "Help!" Like, you ran away. Do I run away? Like, what do I do?
Right.
People at my house, man, and like they won't leave me alone.
Right. It was very cliche that happened, though, and even more cliche that she wrote her back.
Right. But it was just like, who writes a fan mail and like actually thinks they're gonna get it?
Yeah. Especially someone that's a recluse, like.
Right.
No.
All right, so next week.
I think that's that's it for this one. So next week, what do we got coming up?
City of Girls.
City of Girls.
And this will be our last episode
of
season 1.
We made it 6 months, Molly.
I know. I'm tired. Aren't you?
In January, we are going to have a guest. I think, can we just say who we're going to be?
Okay.
Let's just say it.
Let's talk about it. So
Molly has a friend. His name is Isaac. And
you mean Mr. Gordon. I worked with Isaac Gordon in the Coast Guard for years. He was one of my superior officers when I worked at the sector.
I'm going to call him Isaac because he wasn't my superior officer.
He's Isaac now. I just have to fucking get over myself.
Isaac has his own podcast called Master of None. And you'll start seeing some social media posts coming from us promoting his podcast. His podcast
actually put in the notes for this one too.
Okay. Yeah, his podcast has a pretty large following.
And it's a different ghost than us. Like,
yeah, he is not running a book podcast. His podcast is like fixing things and like very
like he built his own house. He does survivalistic stuff.
Like it's not
he hunts.
It's not what we're doing.
He does all the things. He is literally a master of none and a master of all at the same time. Right. He is very talented.
So he's agreed to. He picked a book for us, and we picked a book for him. And we're kicking off season 2 in January with these 2 books. The first book we're going to read is Ready Player One, which I do not have a copy of because I have an ebook copy. And then his pick was Starship Troopers, and so that will be our second book, and we're going to kick it off with him. You can listen to the podcast on his platform and ours.
Yeah, we will dual release on both.
Right.
So,
and we're very excited to do this, excited to work with Isaac.
He will be hosting the second episode.
He will host Starship Troopers. Right.
And April will be our host for Ready Player One.
Right. Correct.
I'm just going to be our witty banter.
Yeah. And then there will be one more episode in January. And then in February, just a big 2 months out preview. We are doing romance novels, which is good for my brain right now because that's all I want to read. I recently reread for the 3rd time this year, Red, White, and Royal Blue. There is something wrong with me.
No, it's a beautiful book. It's a great book. I
think that's it.
I have nothing else.
All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on Book Besties. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The views discussed here are those of Molly and April, not those of anyone else. Today's book was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francessca Zappia. Your Book Besties are Molly Biggs and April Watkins. Editing by Thomas Watkins. And music is Sleep Sweetly by Prigida. Don't forget to follow the Book Besties on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. If you'd like to contact the Book Besties, please email us at bookbestiespod@gmail.com. If you or someone you know is thinking about suicide, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255.